to ask everybody, the first thing we ask is to just learn about their story. And then thereafter, you can go ahead and do your presentation. But let's learn about your story. How did you get into the or the visual design ecosystem? What was your inspiration like? What was that learning curve for you like? How far back has it been? Just let us learn a bit about that.
All right. Thank you very much for having me. It's good to be here. My story into design is one that is quite non-linear. I say non-linear because it's not the quote unquote generic way by which quite a number of designers came into this space. Uh, my story into design would be credited back to my childhood days. Am I audible enough, please?
Yes, you are. You are. You're audible. Can hear you.
Yeah. It will be credited down to my childhood days when I had some very rough friends, very rough friends growing up. Basically, we would we would practice quite a number of things. We'd play a lot of match. We, we knew how to have fun, and we would have sessions whereby we play matches, football match, but not just the general football match that we play, but this time we'd go on to make sure we have a World Cup. And I was always called FIFA back then because I was the one who would curate these matches. I was the one who would write the letters to the different closes. We lived in closed back then, in close a closed estate, so we lived in close. So we had closes, not necessarily streets. I was the one who would look for the corks of soft drinks like Fanta, Coke, and everything to grind those canters, as we called it back then.
Yeah.
I was the one who would look for, yeah, the inner foils of cigarettes, the the gold in the gold and the silver. Well, I know this because I actually looked for those things. So the gold and the gold and the silver, and to use those foils to cover and coat those canters, right? So the winning team get gold, then the second prize get silver as the pendant, and that's where it all started from. It started from intentionality for me. When we played Sway, I don't know how I would explain Sway in modern. I know there's an English terminology for it, but I've just forgotten what it's called.
Yeah.
When we played
Okay.
Sway, our lines has to be well straight. Our line had to be well clean. If it was slanty in any way, we would always clean it and start again. It was the little attention to details.
Hmm.
Lastly, so I yield off the mic. Lastly, one of the biggest moments for me was one time I went for a competition with my secondary school, and in the in the hall when we were competing, in the house, right, in the building where we were competing, some group of guys were playing a game on a board, and I was watching them. They would play this game. They would throw dice and they would move the pawns, PAWN, around. And I was very curious, so I asked what the name of the game was, and they told me it was called Monopoly. This is quite a long time ago, very long. I'm talking about 15, 10, yeah, 10, 15 years ago. No, 10, talking, yeah, 15 years ago in secondary school and all. So I asked what the name of the game was, and they said it was Monopoly. So I went to bookstores around my area and to find if they had any game called Monopoly. And they kind of never had, but I saw it in one of the big estates and all those things. And it was very pricey at the time, about I think 2.5 or something. I mean, where do you want to see 2.5 from that year? So I went to a woman who sells biscuits in our compound, and I collected the cartons. And I had picked up my pencil, paper, crayon, ruler, everything, and I made my own monopoly, made my own money, made our own cards, made our own rules, called a lot of persons, all of the folks around. My goodness, it was one exciting game we played all through the holidays. And that's where it all started for me. It was out of intentionality, out of
Yeah.
curiosity, and
Hmm.
simple inventions.
Amazing, amazing. So I think the next question will be, first of all, do you have your slides? Are you ready with your slides?
Um, I have the slides, but I probably will not use the slides.
Okay, probably will not use the slides. Okay, great. So we can just have the
Yes, yes.
conversation then.
Yeah, we
Amazing.
can have the conversation. Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Wanted to know where your bearing is with that. So I mean, I think the next thing will be what was your first interaction with any graphical tool, as in, and then how was that learning curve for you? Like, how long did it take to get master a tool? What was your first tool? How long did it take to master a tool?
That's a very, very good question. And I don't think I would ever forget that because my very first interaction with graphic tools was I always love to describe it with this phrase. It was familiar but foreign. And let me explain this. So I've been drawing since I was like 7. I know how to draw. Outside the illustrations people see me do, I actually do know how to draw. And I've been drawing since I was like 7. So officially in 2019, that was the very first time I got a laptop and I got a graphic tablet and I got Procreate. Krita. It's Krita at the time. Krita software on that computer, and I started drawing. And I always love to target the phrase familiar but foreign. Familiar in the sense that the art, was familiar, but the act, was foreign. In the sense that I know how to draw, but I'm coming into a digital space whereby, and it may not necessarily be a a pain in the neck for some, but it was for me because I actually do know how to draw. So coming to digital tools and not understanding how to use the tools, I couldn't even draw nose. Someone who actually knows how to draw, but I don't know how to use these tools. So
To
the
draw those
art
particular
was
items, yeah.
familiar, yeah, yeah, but
Mm.
the act was foreign. So my first tool was that it was very stressful for me when I started digital designs in 2019 because I just didn't know my way around these tools. That's how I'd like to describe that. It was familiar but foreign.
So were you self-taught or you then had to?
Yes, I was. Yes, I
Okay.
actually was self-taught. Yes, I was self-taught. I did stop quite a lot of illustrators. Illustration was what brought me into design as a whole, right? As a visual designer and an art director, I don't just do illustrations. I work on graphic design, brand design, UI UX design,
Yeah.
web design apps, website, and the likes of that. Visual design, motion graphic design, I work on quite a very vast range of designs and art direction in general because now if you include video production, which I also do, video editing and all the likes of that, it's art direction. So I had to reach out to a lot of artists at the time when I started, a lot, and I'm so glad that they gave me listening ears and they also came to my aid and they helped me. But yeah, I was basically self-taught. YouTube was my university for
Wow.
learning things.
Amazing. So if we're to advise someone, I'm young, I want to, I feel like I have an interest in design and I'd love to attempt it. What will be your direction for such a person? What tools do you think person can start with? How would you think the person can plan maybe their first 2 years, for example, of just entering into this new design ecosystem?
Yeah, design has actually gotten very advanced today. There's quite a number of aspirants, newbies, rookies, so to speak, who are coming into the digital design space. And I'm grateful to see that. I'm grateful to see that. However, if I'm actually going to advise newbies, for the number of newbies I've been privileged to share knowledge with, one of the first things I even talk about is not even the tools per se. I talk about the the tools they need, but they probably don't even know they need because they're not necessarily considered tools. Which is the one of the first would be How passionate are you with design? Because uh, an average human being does not have the tendency within themselves to commit that much level of time, energy, and effort to something they are not really as passionate. They're not really passionate about, right?
Yeah,
So planning, we're looking 2 years straight, right? Planning your 2 years
yeah,
straight. Let's let's talk about the passion. What brought you into design? I've had email, sorry, not emails, DMs, Twitter DMs, hundreds of them, if I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of them. I have over 15,000 followers. Hundreds of them, if I'm not exaggerating, with I want to learn illustration. 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 How do you do this? How do you do that? What tool do you use for this? What tool do you use for that? And sometimes it's just dopamine feeling. Sometimes you can sense it. You can feel the mist you can feel the mist layer. You know how you see AI generated images and you somehow can tell because there's a mist over it.
hmm,
When we see those kind of messages, we can almost tell that okay, in as much as this person means well, they do mean well, there's this mist of it's just a dopamine feeling, it's a rush of emotion at this point in time. So let's start with the basics of passion. How passionate are you about this thing? What's the number of time you can sacrifice daily, weekly, monthly to, you know, developing your craft? Because inferiority complex is a thing, and it's not like anybody will give it to you. When you go online and you see people who probably just started design 3 weeks ago, but they are really consistent, they are practicing because they are passionate about it, they are putting in the work, you feel like, I don't even think I can make it in this field, or I don't think my designs can fly anywhere. You see your own design, and and all these things can settings. So, but let's come into the well more structured way now. How should one learn? So let's say you've checked the box of you're passionate, you know what you really want to learn this thing now. What's the next step? Obviously, you should have your tools ready, which is your laptop. I always recommend to have a graphic tablet, irrespective of the design field you're wanting to learn. Invest in a graphic tablet. These things are important. I'm not going to go into all the specificity of what laptop should I get. Is it a Mac? Is it a Windows? These things can be upgraded in the later on. When money comes, you can upgrade the tools and everything. But basically, start with very good laptop, invest in graphic tablets, and then we'll talk about. I don't want to get ahead of myself, so should in case you have more questions. But yeah, basically, there's quite a number of there's structure. Learning the basics is very important. Before the practical, you must know certain things about the theories. Before the practical, and I always love to. The last session I spoke on, I think that was I can't remember which particular platform, but I talked about it a lot. Is that Nigeria as a whole, Africa as a demography, Africa as a whole, we are treated with respect to design. And it's not because any other continent or any other nation is cheating us. No. It's just naturally we are cheated in the sense that there is no well curated design educational system in our demography. There's none.
yeah,
If you
yeah,
want to study mass com, yeah, if you want to study mass com, you can write jam, right? Sit for UTME rather, and gain admission to university. They have the curriculum, whatever you want to, we have those. But there's no well curated design education in our demography. There's none so far. Now we have some certain schools who are actually doing design schools who are doing well and doing fine. But there's nothing basic for the designer to learn a well structured. So certain people are winging it. Right, starting at wing. You see some people who they've already started designing logo, but they've not learned contrast. They've already started calling themselves brand designers, but they've not learned typography. They've not learned the other things. Some already started saying they are UI designers. If you see they don't understand, designing for a particular demography and the usage of text and typography and color and hierarchy and all these
yeah,
things. And it's not necessarily our fault. It's just that as a demography, we are cheated. So a lot goes into the preparation ground. A whole lot goes into that process. I'll yield the mic here so I
yeah.
don't get ahead
I
of
was going to
myself.
say that we do have universities who have graphic design as some of their courses. I know it starts out as general arts and arts and
Yeah.
graphic because I know a friend who actually went into school strictly for graphic design But but generally speaking, we definitely need more of a thorough
Design education.
design education and system. More universities should take up design education, yes, as some of their courses. Because I mean, I think the industry is too vast now not to make it inclusive, like not to add it as an inclusion to what you're currently doing, right? I definitely believe that. Amazing, amazing. Thank you for that. So, how would you describe this? This is a question that was sent in from our community, from one of our community members. How would you describe the differences between a graphic designer or a visual designer and a product designer? I know there are similarities. Sometimes we have one role functioning in multiple roles, as you said yourself that you currently do. But do we have some core differentiations? And what would be your guiding paths towards anybody that wants to go into these three fields: visual designer, graphic designer, product designer?
Okay, beautiful, beautifully said. There's a hill I will fight on. There's a hill I will fight on, and the hill is that amongst all the branches of designs, product, brand, the likes of that, whatever taglines we give ourselves,
Hmm.
graphic design is the hardest of them all. I would fight any battle on that hill with any design. Yeah, graphic design as a whole. It's the foundation. It's the core basic graphic design, and not
The
necessarily.
ball may be closed by the
This
time
is
you
not.
arrive.
Um, this is not. This is not a law per se. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I'm not saying this as a law or a theory, and neither am I saying this as a thesis. But one of the best one of the best visual designer, brand designer, UI UX designer are those who started out as graphic designers. Now, let's
Yeah.
let's kick into the difference, right? When we talk about someone being a graphic designer, when we talk about someone being a graphic designer, that's someone who actually specializes in graphics. Sometimes we use this name as a family name, as the conglomerate where all these other things fit into. But graphic designers are specifically tagged as those who design posters, like the posters we see. Logo design is simple compared to poster design, especially those who really want to be designer. Graphic design will humble the living daylight out of any designer when you are called to design graphic. You can see a logo and you see it looks like the other logo from the company. We have precepts. There are some finesse, there are some theatrics to poster design that graphic design can work on that you can't learn from anywhere. There's it's either you have it or you don't. It's
Yeah.
either you have it or you don't. So graphic designs, I would generally, I'm not necessarily sure he works for Super Sports, but he works for those big football companies. He's Nigerian. That's means he specifically just design football posters. He specifically just design football posters that they post on social media. Now that's graphic design. There's a finesse that if you don't have it, you don't have it. No matter the tutorial you watch, you can't fake it in graphic design. Now, graphic design can also be an umbrella name also. Let's not forget that. But if we're going into specificity and specialization, graphic design is your key core ability to design posters and flyers. That's it. Not necessarily logo. Your ability to design something that when someone looks at it, they know exactly what to look at first and what to look at next. That's graphic design. Now, brand design, sorry, UI design, right? UI design is also product design rather, is also a compound name. When we say I'm a product designer, that's a compound name because when we talk about product designer, that's way too big for what some persons do. Let me give an example. The chair. some of us are sitting on currently. If you're sitting down and you're sitting on a chair, that chair, before it was finally created, invented, and pushed to the market, someone had to sit down and design what that chair would look like, send it to the company, right, that produced the chair. Then they went in, they change, reiterate, and all the likes of that before the final product was produced. Now, that person who designed that chair, who drew that chair, so illustrators can actually be product designers, but not necessarily UI UX that we know. It's still user interface, but then not the um, digital product. These are physical assets. The laptop that we have, somebody drew it, designed it, showed it to Apple company or whatever brand you're using, and they looked at it on the screen, they looked at everything, they made 3D renders of it, and they said, fine, we like this one, let's go into production. Then it was produced. That's product design as a whole. Product design is bigger than just UI UX. Now, but when we come into UI UX design, basically you're designing mobile apps, websites, and the likes of that. That's UI UX design specifically. Sometimes we use these taglines interchangeably. So product design is a very big compound name. If you buy a if you buy a fan, let's say a standing fan for instance, if you buy a standing fan and you check in the carton, there's a manual in that fan. And the manual you would see that the fan can be drawn in that manual. I don't have mine here. I would have loved to show it, but it's upstairs. There's a manual in even some of these, not necessarily fan, other products you buy, there's a manual in it. Somebody designed and drew those that's also product design. But it's not necessarily apps and the likes of that. Now, visual design as a whole is is now the conglomerate in the sense that you can do graphic, you can do UI, you can do product, you can design brand, just encompass it as visual design. Because if you ask me now to describe myself and you say, what do I do? And I only say, I'm a brand designer. I have not fully given a full description of what I do because much more than brand design, I also film and edit videos. I'm a video editor as well. I also work on podcast production like that. I work on illustration. I work on motion design. I design apps and I design websites as well. That's why I call myself a designer. Actually, I didn't call myself. It was a brand. It was a Web3 platform that called one particular Web3. They wanted me to speak and they wanted a bio for me. And I said, at the time, I didn't have a bio. And they went on and they created one for me. And I've been using that template since then. They called me a design polymath after I told them the multiple things I do. So, as a visual designer, now visual designer talks about design simple, just design. So you do multiple aspects of design, brand, UI, UX, graphic design, and the likes of that. Now, if I still describe myself as only a visual designer, it doesn't encompass every single thing I do. But if I say I'm an art director to someone who has design knowledge or knowledge of creative direction, would understand that okay, this particular fellow knows how to work on multiple skill at least a mid-level or an intermediate level, if if not senior, so to speak. So back to I've said all that to say this. Graphic designs would specifically have to do with folks who know how to design posters, flyers. That's your key core element. There are many brand designers and many UI designers who don't know how to design posters because that's not their core. So that's the first aspect. That's graphic design. UI design, which we also call product design, is your ability to design digital products, which in this case will be mobile app screens and website screens. Then visual design talks about not just branding, not just you being able to design visual brands, right? But you know how to work on logo designs, illustrations, icon sets, and the likes of that. That's how I would best describe this. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, yeah, you did justice to that. Thank you very much. Next, to be a question about how to successfully build your career path. So you've learned a skill, you've learned graphic design, or you've learned UI UX, or even logo design. what would be your advice for building a successful career in this field that you've just left? And then how
First,
you can start off with that with even a personal story of your success and how that trajectory was like for you.
okay. Um, to be honest, I I know the theory and I've also practiced some aspect of it, but that was not how I originally started. In the sense that I wasn't looking to build a career for myself. No, I love to draw. I've been drawing since I was 7 years old, so I love to draw. Illustration was what brought me into the field of design. Now, but along the line, you get good, you get known, you get paid. Now you have to know how to build the brand. Let me give you a simple example also for folks who are not even in the design space. Take for instance uh, a young boy who does videos in his home. He just does videos and he posts on TikTok. And one day his videos goes viral. One particular video go viral. Now a big company is reaching out to him, or before then, is a small retail store reaching out to him and say, hey, please, your video is going viral. Can you just mention my product in your video? And he says, all right, that's fine. How much will you charge? And he says, all right, just give me 5,000 naira. For I'm just giving for instance. So okay, really? Okay, I'll give you 10,000 naira. And he gives him 10,000 naira. I'm sorry, and they gave him 10,000 naira. And he promotes the brand, and they came back for more. And somebody who knows that this particular fellow who just does video in his home has the potential to make money. Say, you know what, let's market you well so that you can be able to stand out where and negotiate some more. So I'll be your manager and the likes of that. And slowly but surely now, brand is setting in for that particular fellow. Remember, this fellow started out by just making video in his parlor, and the video is going viral, and now his platform is, numbers are adding up. It's more or less like that. Now he's a big brand. Now he understands the business. He has a manager who looks after his work for him. Now big brands are reaching out and endorsement deals and the likes of that. And whenever he's asked how much for a video, now he's saying, well, for a video of 1 minute, that would be 3 million naira. This is someone who started from 5,000, 10,000 naira. What am I trying to say? For me, it was not about building a successful career. It was just me sharing my works. But along the line, well, branding had to set in, right? When companies and big platforms start reaching out to you, you have to learn the thing. So let's take it from this way. The first step is to get good. You have to be exceptionally good. I can't emphasize that enough. Before you even think about building a solid brand for yourself, make sure you build your craft to the core. Hone that craft. You have to be exceptionally skilled at it. Not you have to beat the subpar level. You have to be exceptionally skilled. You can't negotiate that out. You would lose if you don't. If you do. First, you have to be exceptionally talented, skilled rather at your craft. Whatever you're doing, design, UI design, illustrations, be good first. Be exceptionally good. And then share your work. Share your work. This is like the roadmap. Share your work. And as you're sharing your work, make sure you are known for something, as for one particular craft, especially those who would want to explore multiplicity of skill. You want to do visual designs, you want to, graphic UI, illustrations, whichever. You do multiple skill or you do a lot. Be known for at least one. I do quite a number of, I think the most part, a lot of persons know me for my illustrations. They know me to be an illustrator. I remember one time when a senior product designer wanted to work with me, was like, I didn't even know you do branding. All I know is that you do illustrations. And I said, well, boss, I do branding too. I do all types of design. Basically, be known for one. You have to be known for one. It's expedient. You have to be known for one. So if you're going to be known as someone who posts UI design, have that face. And one of the good reasons as to why you have to be known for a particular niche or a particular field is that you want to come top to mind when someone needs that particular service. You always want to come top to mind, right? If folks need illustrations in a way, one way or another, they reach out to me. One way or another, they reach out to me. About 2 days ago, someone reached out to me for a UI design project, and I was like, okay, I had to refer that out in a way. And I don't necessarily post UI design that much as I post illustrations. I don't post UI design that much as I post illustration. So you want to be known for something. First, get good. Second, get known. Then third, obviously get paid. And this is a quote from Olamide Agumbiade, my friend and exceptional illustrator. Get good, get known, get paid. So the basic roadmap it is post your work. Now, that is that is a more structured way, a more structured way, a more structured way in the context of you're intentionally wanting to build the brand. Remember, I started by saying I was not looking to build a brand. It just happened, and I had to
Yeah.
learn on the cover. And yeah, so that's a more structured way. You wanting to actually build the brand, which there's nothing wrong with you wanting to build a brand. You should actually, as a professional designer, you should. So now, when you're intentionally wanting to build brand, follow designers and engage them. People underestimate how effective that thing is. Follow designers who are exceptionally good and engage them.
Yeah.
Engage them. Yeah, when they post, engage them. They post, you see something, you ask questions, you comment. I'm not saying always be the one to say, yeah, this is fine, this is fine. No, give a comment that is actually meaningful in a way. This is fine is also meaningful. Don't quote me wrong, but you have to contribute value to some points because, believe it or not, there are some persons that I don't necessarily follow, but I know them. I know them because they engage me a lot. I don't necessarily follow them, but I know them. I know them. And if I have works, I recommend them for that because they engage me a lot. And there are some who I've had to follow because they engage me a lot. So follow designers, engage them so that they know people have to know you exist. People have to know you exist. So
Mm.
show up. Basically show up. Sure. And social media is your big has it has given almost everybody a global opportunity. Right. Post your work in every single platform. Well, I was so surprised when I had a one of my podcast episode with Design Queen. Design Queen is one of the beautiful product designer in the design space, and she said she has a portfolio on Snapchat. I was so surprised. I don't use Snapchat, but I was like, isn't that like a platform where people just take pictures and the likes of that? She said, she has a portfolio on Snapchat. So utilize. I'm trying to say utilize social media to the best of your ability. On your stories, post it. On everything, post it. And everywhere you can, post it. I'll use the mic here. Thank you.
Yeah. But I mean, that leads me to my next question. Looking at networking and growing your personal brand, what would be your best advice when it comes to? I know you've touched a bit about that, but I want you to throw more light into that. Um, I see somebody that has basically achieved everything I want to achieve. What do you think is the best approach to reach such a one, or to start getting advice, or start getting critics to your posts, or your design in this sense, or your designs, and also inspiration?
Okay. I tweeted something I think this week, where I said, on my Twitter, I said, um, I'm trying to paraphrase here. I said sometimes some, especially newbies and rookies, may feel like their voice may never be heard or their designs or whatever their craft is will never be seen because there are already too many exceptional people who do something similar and they do it very well. It's more like I'm just starting design today, for instance, and I'm seeing all these designers design and their designs are very, very beautiful. And I can feel very intimidated by that to say, when will I ever get to this level? When will I ever? So if you see someone who has attained a height that you know you'd like to climb, Ask them for their ladder. It's as simple as that. But then if it can feel very off, and this is why you can't just slide into my DM and say, "Hey, Ufot, uh, how did you do that?" When you've not engaged me, and it feels, in a way, it feels like you want to steal from me. When there are some persons who we've been talking on the Twitter timeline for quite a number of days, right? Sorry, not days, months now. If they slide into my DM and they ask a question on a particular thing, I'm more inclined to respond to them than I would someone who I don't even recognize your handle. I'm probably not even following you, and you just slid into my DM and you're asking for it. So it starts by also engaging them in a way. Engage them first, but then ask them for their ladder. You have to, in the sense, and this is more importantly, there's a particular question I always love to ask when I sit with folks who I admire. What's the one mistake that you made along the line of your career that if you're given an opportunity, you will still want to make that mistake again? Especially because of how it turned out to be. Ask more than you ask questions about their successes. Their successes. Ask questions about their mistakes. That's how you really collect ladders. See, there are too many success that the the success story, the finished product is one of the best things people always look out for. But the product is not to be trusted until you've seen the process. One of the ways you would know that a particular thing is solidified is when you see how it was done. That's why brands tend to
Yeah,
sell emotion rather than selling the product itself. So
yeah,
ask questions that relate to their mistakes. I don't want to wax unnecessarily philosophical and sound like I'm trying to aspire to perspire your Maguire. No, I don't have the strength for that. But to be honest, ask questions that deal with the struggles they had, because those are the things you would relate to much more than their success. Not like I'm saying we're not there yet, but as it is now, we can't necessarily relate to their successes until they attain such heights. Let me give an example. Let me give a very brief example. There's a very popular designer, actually, he's not a founder, actually, Chris Doe, very popular. Chris Doe is the
yeah.
CEO of the future. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Doe can say, if you don't pay him $20,000 per hour, he's not going to design. Not necessarily can I say that. No. I don't have that strength. And there are many success stories online from foreign designers that are good and true, but they are useless because they don't apply to our demography. It's not because their context is wrong. It's just because ours is wrong. Chris
Yeah.
can make that kind of bold claim. I can't make it. To
Mm-hmm.
them, in their country, they don't experience power shortage. I'm,
Of
I'm talking
course.
reality now.
Yeah.
But it's a struggle for us. In their country, having a phone, having a computer is more or less basic amenities to them. To us, these things are like
True.
luxury.
True.
You understand what I'm saying? So they are two different worlds apart. So some of their successes don't necessarily relate to us, but on a ground where everybody is parallel to, it struggles, the struggles,
True.
the mistakes you've made. So ask more than you ask questions about how did you make this? How did you fail? It's one of those questions we don't think to ask. But yeah, how did you fail? Right? Relate, and it's not because you're looking for aspire to prosper. No, you need raw things. Anybody can cook up. There are certain. Let me give a very. If you're a designer, yeah, you probably have done this before. You design a very beautiful logo, very beautiful logo. Then after you finish designing the logo, you went on to design a grid just to fit the logo into the grid. I don't know if you've done that before, but I have.
Mm-hmm.
You did not necessarily use that grid to design that logo. It was after you designed the logo, you went on to design a grid to fit that
Yeah.
logo into that grid. It's the same. You've already achieved success now, in a way. That's the logo. Now, go and design a grid. Go and make up a story. Should in case somebody asks you, how did you achieve this success? So that it can match
True.
that thing. I've never even thought about this before. I just thought about it right now. I'm talking this grid thing. I've never thought about it before. Go and design a, go and make up a struggle story to match this success. because somebody will ask you, how did you succeed? But when someone asks you how you failed, you can't make up a story. You know it. You know it and you know it. So I think I
Of
lost my
course.
train of thought or what the question was, but
I mean,
I,
that
I
was
really
it.
hope I touched
Just
on.
finding out, yeah, yeah, yeah. Just finding
Yeah,
out what you should be asking, maybe someone that has gone ahead of you or have achieved success in
yeah,
your journeys. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Borrow their
we have
light. Tell them to give
some,
their light.
yeah, amazing. We have some talents on ground. I don't know if you have any questions. If you want to ask a question, we have Favor, Jamu as well. A few persons came in and left, but do you have any questions, Favor or Jamu, before we round up for today? Okay, so while we wait for that as well, Mr. Ufot, I want to know what your antecedents are currently. Do you have like a
What my
mentorship
what?
program? Are you mentoring talents in graphic design, or are you teaching? What are you currently working on as an individual?
All right. Very. Thank you for asking. That's a very good question. Currently, I'm working on my first illustration course. My
Really?
very first illustration.
That's
Yes,
amazing.
it's probably going to be launching next week. Hopefully next week. It's been a long time coming actually. First digital illustration course.
So, will you have
It's
videos?
going to be. Yes, it's a video. We've been filming, we've been editing, we've been recording, and the likes of that. Right? We've been filming at the studio here, been recording, and the likes of that. We've been working on this thing back to back. So the first digital illustration course is coming out for illustrators, specifically because I'm trying to help as many as I can in this digital illustration
Hmm.
field. Right. That's one of the reasons as to why I started a podcast to have conversations with top top designers I know in the country that certain persons may not be privileged to meet or converse with them. So if you can, but if I can do that, then it can be available to general public. But about
Yeah,
mentorship, there's quite a lot on my plate. So mentorship is one of the things I currently do not take for now. But definitely, I would have to create time for specifically folks who buy the course, because it's not just buy the course and go and leave it. No, there has to be follow-ups and the likes of that. So that's the goal for next year, by the way. But the course is definitely launching out this year, but the follow-up sessions will be happening for next year. But I don't currently take
yeah,
um mentor. We're currently trying to run the studio where we push podcasts, stories, and the likes of that. That's
yeah,
basically it. But I do have a team where we work on content creation and for the podcast specifically. So that's
yeah.
that's like the big focus after my course that I'll be launching next week.
Oh wow, that's amazing, amazing. We'll talk more just to see how we can um, work with you to see how putting out this course can be a success and achievable. I'm sure there are a number of talents already on my spot that want to learn about this and be a part of it as well. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Ufot. We're much grateful. I know you are busy, but just seeing that message and then just honoring our invitation. We appreciate your being here. Thank
Pleasure
you,
is all
thank you,
mine.
thank you. Yeah.
Thank
Lastly,
you.
what will be your final thoughts for any young person that wants to go into the field of design? What do you think the future of the design industry will be in Africa or in Nigeria? Right? What's your aspiration for the industry in Nigeria?
Very, very thoughtful question and very timely one. I must I must let everybody who cares to listen know that we are seeing. We're already seeing it. Being a designer this day and age is much more than specializing in one field. You have to generalize. I'm going to say that again in the best way I can. You are more valuable being a generalist than being a specialist. What do I mean by that? Being your ability to work on multiple branches of design puts you at an edge over someone who only knows how to do one type of thing this day and age. Because, believe it or not, Startups, companies, brands, and the likes of that are looking for only one person to do the work of an octopus. To you would see if you check LinkedIn, you already see it. We need a graphic designer who knows how to edit video, who knows how to do this, who knows how to do it's cheating already on that space. But
Yeah.
then,
And again, I would really love to know your thoughts
yeah,
about that because that was one of the major things that is actually doing the industry in Nigeria more harm than good.
yeah, it's
I
bad
personally,
actually.
yes,
Straight up, it's bad. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. It's straight up bad. Let's not even sugarcoat it. There's no
true.
way to paraphrase it. It's bad. It's bad. You can't want. In fact, the digital illustration as a whole in Nigeria, rarely would you see brands saying that they like somebody who can hire
Of
illustrators.
course. Of course.
Rarely would you see brands saying and the likes of that. Yeah, rarely. Fintech companies are looking for designers who actually know how to illustrate. They are not necessarily hiring illustrators as a whole. Rarely, on
Hmm.
rare occasions, most of my design illustrators friends that I know, they are majorly freelancers or they are working for companies outside of Nigeria.
Yeah.
Rarely. Nigerians don't specify, and this is our demography, right? So the future of design is something to be hired. Much more than you specialize in one, be a generalist who is a specialist. So know how to work on
Hmm.
multiple things at a very high level. So be a generalist who is a specialist in all that you do. And it will take time. So you have to give yourself time
Yeah.
to grow. And it starts, that's why I started by talking about passion. If you're passionate about it, you put in the hours and the time. For some of us, day in, day night, we're on our laptop screen by designing. Even if it's that we want to move one box from point A to point B, let's still do it. That's
Wow.
that's my closing thoughts. Thank you.
Wow, 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 wow. Crazy, crazy. And thank you so much. Thank you so much. With that, we wrap up tonight's session. So everybody that joined, I see what we did. I see Jamu, Favor, and Michael. Thank you so much for your time. Like I said, this session is recorded, so if you've missed any parts, we'll still upload the video on YouTube. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Ufot. And guys, enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you for your time. Thank you for
Thank you.
joining today.
Thank you for having me.
All right,
I appreciate
sir.
it.
All right then. Bye, guys. Cheers.